And now we'll move on to part two, the Q&A or the deep dive. Scott and Darius, I'd like to start off with, you mentioned COVID. I would have think that COVID would have been a good catalyst for you. Everyone's sort of locked at home and you doing something, you're playing video games, or you're betting and so forth, or did it sort of get counteracted with like the sports betting? There weren't so many sports things on to bet on, or what were sort of the pluses and minuses of the whole COVID environment?
Yeah, I can start there. I'd be lying if I said we weren't a little nervous when we went public right at the beginning of the pandemic and sports came to a screeching halt. So we were a little nervous, but it actually worked out great for us. Again, we shifted our focus to esports, which led us to the merger with Scott and Ascot. We focus a lot on the casino. Our numbers started hitting record revenues there. We started adding new features to our platform to get people engaged again with virtual sports. We brought on virtual tennis and virtual soccer, virtual horse racing. So we actually saw our numbers didn't dip at all during the pandemic, and we knew we'd be able to ramp it up when sports came back, and obviously they came back pretty soon. So it allowed us to focus on a few things, focus on development. So we put our heads down and kept focusing on development, focus on marketing, just getting our sales funnels working properly, so that when sports did come back, we were able to hit the ground running. Led us obviously to the acquisition of Ascot, which has been spectacular for us on the merger. So, yeah, it was scary early on, but I think it was the best thing, and it showed for us that it's pandemic proof. And what happened was we saw a full shift of consumer habits from people going to the stadium or going to bricks and mortar casinos or going to the bars to actually just betting online and playing online. And I think that consumer habit shift is here to stay. Online growth has been huge over the last year, and I think it's going to continue that trend.
And was there a shift from people betting on soccer games or whatever to then other forms of gaming and gambling? Or are you able to track, okay, Bob is now not betting on soccer, he's now playing online roulette or whatever? Were you able to track some of those consumer behaviors?
Yeah, we were. A lot of our sports bettors turned to the casino and virtual sports, which was awesome. And then when sports came back, they came back to sports, but also continued on the casino. So we were able to track all that, which was great for us. We didn't get that drop in revenue, which we thought we might have. So for us, it was actually great.
So I'm not much of a gambler. The stock market's enough gambling for me. Do your customers, let's say when you're do they sort of have typically kind of a budget? They've got $500 a month, they're going to gamble on things, and then when the soccer disappeared, then they're like, okay, well, I'll spend $500 a month on sort of casino games and esports, or how does the sort of your customer, the end user, actually allocate how much they participate in it in terms of time and money?
Yeah, I wouldn't say, every customer is obviously different. So I think that we have certain customers who, on the McBookie platform, as an example, our two biggest sports there are soccer and horse racing. So we definitely see more volume when soccer and horse racing are there. Our goal is always to cross promote, get the players into the casino, make sure they're playing in the casino. But yeah, I wouldn't say anyone has like a set budget and only focuses on one sport, but we do see kind of all over the place. We want to cross promote all our features as we can in a responsible gaming fashion.
In the market, it's obviously a massive market, and like the people who are in the market already, they have some kind of a back end system, or you're kind of grabbing sort of the B2C market share, or trying to grab like people's back end systems. Do you see on the B2B side, do you see you getting more traction on sort of new entrants saying, hey, we've got a new concept or a marketing plan for a gaming site? Or is it that, hey, our back end's not working very well, let's just outsource that? We're a marketing company, the back end isn't a key strategic advantage for us. And if so, how much churn is there because once you lock into a back end provider, you're not going to be switching every couple of months. That's a pretty kind of long-term commitment. Could you talk about those kind of market dynamics? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So the one you mentioned, it is quite a sticky thing. So that's why like our B2B contracts typically start at 36 months to start. And then there's very low turnover once someone's locked in, because you really do control everything, payments, licensing, all of that. In terms of where the business is coming from, it is sort of, we are operating globally, and it is region specific, I would say. So, you have markets like Europe, or a lot of Europe is very mature, whereas the US is very immature. So sports betting online has only been allowed, 2 or 3 years now since they repealed the PASPA in the US. So what you'd see in, say, North America and even Canada now, with Ontario making moves to open up, is you're seeing things like media brands. So, you take the Bell, the Rogers of Canada, who operates Sportsnet and TSN, are definitely going to be in the betting space when it opens up, and they're going to look to license their technology. In the US, it was the same. So a lot of people were licensing technology. DraftKings is the biggest example that went public via SPAC last year. In that process, they acquired a back-end technology. So they were using Kambi. So DraftKings was really just the marketing force of that sports book, using Kambi, but then acquired SB Tech in the process of going public, and we'll be switching over to that. So there's so much interest in North America to get into this space that we're seeing a lot of people who don't want to be the don't want to be the technology looking to find partners. But we're also seeing a lot of those existing platforms being acquired. So as I mentioned, SB Tech got acquired. So, it doesn't look good for anybody who is an SB Tech customer with DraftKings owning it now. So they'll be looking for new tech. Bally's acquired Betworks, which has been providing the score, and a few others. GAN acquired CoolBet, so we're seeing fewer and fewer of the existing platforms being available. So good timing for us, a combination of fewer platforms available, but markets opening up in North America quite quickly. So what we're seeing in other places that are more mature is our ability with esports. So that is our foot in the door with everybody. So everybody who's been an existing sports book or casino operator is now trying to figure out how to incorporate esports into their platform, really to get a totally different demographic. And it's the 18 to 30-year-olds who don't watch baseball anymore, don't watch hockey, but watch video games. So in more mature markets, we're getting more interest because of our esports background. And then in North America, a lot of interest because of the full suite for traditional sports.
Could you remind me, how do you manage your odds, the whole odds making system? Do you outsource that, or is that partially in-sourced, or can you just refresh us on that?
Yeah, it's a combination. So we start with data feeds, and our platform is extremely flexible. So we will pull official data feeds from a number of partners, and we can mix and match at the sport level. So, for example, Genius Sports just got the NFL rights away from Sport Radar. So if we want official data, we'll have an agreement with Genius Sports to get official NFL data. We might have Radar for all other sports, and then we can layer on specific products that we like to give us more markets. So, Sport Radar, Genius, I'm just using those as examples, could be our base of all of our data feeds coming in. But then there might be a provider who has better North American sports in-play product or pre-match markets, so we can also layer them on top. So we bring in all those feeds, we think we bring in the best for each region. And then we have our own trading tools layered on top of that. So we have a risk and trading team ourselves. And we also offer that to our partners. So if somebody is using just our software and has their own trading team, they will get the same trading tools. So typically what you'll get the opening lines coming in from our data partners, and then we can manage and adjust those ourselves internally with our platform. And we can adjust it for a whole bunch of different reasons, for balancing the book or managing, or even marketing reasons. So McBookie, for example, we always want to have the best odds on Scottish soccer. So we'll take in all the feeds, and then we can adjust and trade Scottish soccer to make sure we always have the best odds. So it's a combination of outsourced coming in and then our ability to manipulate.
And how do you manage do the risk management on that? Are you able to sort of hedge any of that? Like sort of like you're taking sides on bets, you're trying to balance that out and sort of get an arbitrage between the bid and the ask, so to speak. Just very briefly, sort of what's your, how does your risk management process conceptually work?
So a lot of the stuff coming in now is just algorithmically driven by the people that we bring in. So what we get by using an outsourced service is they aggregate all of the data from all of the sports books. So we get the benefit of that volume from them. And then we do have most of our providers offer a managed trading service or a guaranteed margin. So we can lay a lot of that off onto the providers under their guaranteed margin. And then that just makes sure we always maintain a certain margin with them. That can roll over month to month. So there's could be a month that's down and then that'll just roll into the following month. But over time and with the aggregated data, we can manage it fairly well.
All right. I'm just a bit of a side note with the Mayweather Jake Paul fight, which was probably fairly well scripted. Were there betting done on that, or was that just you guys stayed away because that was a circus event? So well,
I'm sure some people, we wouldn't, because there's actually no judging. So there wasn't a declared winner. So yeah, we wouldn't touch it.
All right. You guys are now dealing with crypto on that. Do you hold crypto on your books, or you just convert it as soon as you get it and sort of lay off that risk? Or are there? And I'm curious, has there been big uptake on the crypto side? Any perspectives on that world you can shed us some light?
So we currently don't take any of the crypto risk. We don't hold it. So our integrations, basically what will happen is it's just another deposit option for our users. So they'll get, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different options of how they want to deposit. If they select crypto and then the certain crypto, we'll just present them with how many euros or dollars will end up in their wallet on the site, and they can accept that. And then our third-party partner basically just puts fiat into our bank or our holding system. So yeah, so we don't take any of that risk. There's been a bit, I would say the uptake's been more in the requests from B2B partners wanting to have it as an option. I still think with the volatility, a lot of people aren't transacting with it as much as opposed to holding crypto. So there's been some, but it's more of an advantage, I guess, for jurisdictions that have a harder time with credit cards or getting money into betting sites because of the coding behind the scenes. But I would say it's more on B2B wanting to have it as an option as opposed to the B2C sites seeing an uptick in deposits with it.
All right. On your whole service offering, you seem to have a very, very wide and deep offering of services to both B2C and B2B. Are there any big holes that you're missing that you're working on to sort of fill in a niche or plug a hole in your service offering that would sort of help make you more attractive to new clients or generate some additional revenues off of existing clients?
Yeah, I think we've got, from a traditional online sportsbook casino, we're fairly well covered. And then you throw in the sort of robust esports offering, I think we're ahead of most. I think the one areas we're looking now more is more of the I think user customization. So the ability through AI or machine learning to tailor an offering to a user more specifically, as opposed to what you would see now is everybody sees the same site, gets the same offers. So I think we're trying to do more on the sort of user customization end. That's one thing we think we can do better at offering and gives an advantage. I guess the only other area that some sites may have that we currently wouldn't would be online poker, but that's very region specific where it's allowed. And there's a lot of people that do poker well. So if we needed to add it, it would be just like us adding an online casino, for example. It'd be an integration we can do if there's a demand for it through our platform.
All right, I'll ask one more question, then we've got quite a stack of questions from the audience here. So being in Canada, can you just talk about the single betting gaming legislation that's coming through, and beforehand we were chit-chatting, and you just said there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation about that. Can you give us a little primer on where we're at, where we think we're going to, and what that'll, I guess, mean in the end?
Yeah, for sure. So, it's historically in Canada, it's a government monopoly here in betting. So it's the provincial lottery corporations or provincial governments that are running the legal betting sites or casinos. So if you're betting on a site that's not run by the government, it's an offshore site that is not licensed in Canada and can't be advertising in Canada, but a number of them are still taking Canadian players. So the federal sort of law has not allowed single event sports betting historically, which means you could not go in and bet on the Canucks to win a game or the Maple Leafs or the Blue Jays. You had to do a parlay or a multiple. So you had to bet on two events happening that can't be within the same match. So you had to bet the Canucks to win and the Blue Jays to lose, for example. So it's not great for the bettor. Anytime you've got to be right on two things versus one, it's tougher. And that's why you'd see, billions being bet on the offshore site. So if you're a serious sports bettor, you're going to go somewhere where you have that ability to do single event betting. It's come up with the government, many times with every government we've had, NDP, Liberal or Conservative, at one time or another has tried to address this, but there just hasn't been the push or the public support that it has now. So Bill C-218 is the one that's been presented, and that would change that law, which would allow single event betting to be allowed in Canada. So each province would then decide if they're going to allow it and how. So really, it's the first step to having a more competitive betting market in Canada, the ability for the government sites to do single event betting. Where the process is at, it's had to get through, 3 readings in the House of Commons with a judiciary committee in between second and third, and that's done. So had, almost unanimous support in the House of Commons. So then it gets pushed to the Senate where it is now. Same thing, it's got to get through 2 readings and a review. So it's had 2 readings, it's had the review. It's going back for today, I believe, for another 3rd debate. And then the vote could be as early as Thursday. So if that goes through and it's approved, then, before the end of June, that should be law that we can allow single event betting in Canada.
And will that get enacted immediately, or they're going to, then the government has to still figure out like the regulatory regime and they set up a new bureaucracy to do it, and then it's still another couple years away?
Yeah, so then each province will have to go through and set it up and approve it and then allow it. But then really then it's really down to the sites though, because the sites will then have to get themselves prepared for that. So day one, I don't know that any of the sites that were run by the governments, maybe they are, but I don't know if they're ready to change to single event betting right away. So there's an opportunity on technology provision for the provincial governments. So there will be a bit of a time before it gets, approved at the government level before you'll see it on any provincial site. I guess the more exciting thing for us is provinces looking to open up to outside operators. So Ontario is looking to do that by the end of the year. So the AGCO in Ontario, the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario, now has taken over control of betting casino for the province. And they want to make it an open and competitive market, which would mean someone like us could move into the Ontario market and offer our services, either B2B or B2C. So they're looking to have that done by the end of this year.
All right. Okay. So let's go on to some questions. I got a few emailed to me, so let's hit those first. The first question was in terms of catalyst, we're pretty much halfway through the year here. Let's say through the remainder of the year, what are some major catalysts or type of news flow that we could hope to get? Some new client wins or, what kind of things to have on our radar?
Yeah, catalysts upcoming for us are for sure the UK licenses. That's something we've been focused on for the last few months. So UK licensing, hopefully, very shortly. M&A activity would be further catalysts, and like you mentioned, getting more clients signed to our B2B platform are future catalysts for us over the course of the next few months.
All right. And a question regarding the your GLI applications, the Gaming Labs International. You're waiting to get some authorization or sort of certification, I guess, from those guys. Could you flesh that out a bit?
Yeah, so it's kind of us getting prepared for more U.S. markets, and what we expect to happen in Canada is the main motivation. So in the other jurisdictions we're in, so when we did the Isle of Man, when we did Malta, when we do UK, each regime has their own sort of technical standards you've got to adhere to, and they'll have their own process of testing or looking at your tech. So we've been through that in a number of jurisdictions. What GLI has done for the North American market, really for the US to start, was come up with the GLI 33 standard, which is really the testing around a sports wagering platform. So it's a bit different from the Isle of Man, a bit different from Malta, a bit different from the UK, because every jurisdiction does things a bit differently. So a lot of the US states use GLI 33 either as their standard for technology for a sports betting platform, or build on top of it. So we're going ahead to get the GLI 33 certification for our betting platform. So we're either ready for a state or very close to being ready in terms of getting through technical audits. We do expect that, when a province like Ontario opens up, our expectation is that GLI will either be the standard they pick or will be very close to. So again, it's just more in preparation for things to turn around in more states in Canada to get that. GLI 19 is another one we're doing, and that's just game specific for our casino games. So we'll get every game tested. They're already built on a certified random number generator, the GLI certified, but then some jurisdictions want you to go a step further on your games, not all of them. So again, it's just to be prepared ahead of time for certain jurisdictions that may want to see a certification on each game. We think GLI is probably the best testing laboratory in the gaming space, which is why we choose them, and every jurisdiction accepts GLI testing.
All right. And on to some questions here from the Zoom chat, asking about, are you going to uplist to Nasdaq, and hoping there won't be a reverse split on that on the way there. Sort of future plans for financings and uplistings?
In terms of financing, I think we're in a great position right now. As I mentioned, we're cashed up. We have zero debt, so we're not looking at that right now. Nasdaq is something we're exploring with the team and the board. Continuing the conversations with the regulators in the U.S., speaking to counsel in the U.S., speaking to accountants, make sure we have all our ducks in a row, and then see if it makes sense, for us as a company and for our shareholders. And in regards to the reverse split, if that's one of the requirements, needed to go to Nasdaq, of course we're gonna think about it before we do it. But yeah, I would say it's something we're exploring. It's nothing that's going to happen imminently, but it's something we eventually like to do.
All right. And someone asking on the recent activity in your share price, the spike in recent uptick in here, volume and price. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think over the course of the last couple months, a lot of the gaming stocks have come down. So it seems like they've all slowly been rebounding here, which is great for us. I think a lot of this is excitement about the regulatory environment here in Canada and the bill passing. So I think that would probably contribute to it. For us, I think some of the milestones we've hit, a lot of people are excited about that. Our quarterly numbers, we hit into our internal targets, which was great for us. We're on pace to do what we projected to do. So I think that's bringing excitement into the stock as a company with a much lower market cap than a lot of our peers, not just here in Canada, but in the US market.
All right. And then a question on your, are you giving any guidance or any 2021 or future kind of revenue estimates?
We've only put out some revenue guidance in one of the coverages from an analyst. So, our goal, in 2019, we had $1 million in revenue. Our goal was to double that in 2020 as a consolidated entity. We did that. This year, we've put out targets that we want to hit between 4 and 5 million. After Q1, we hit over $1 million. We're on target to do that. That, of course, doesn't include any potential M&A activity, but we're on pace with our own internal targets as well as what we put out there in the analyst report.
All right. And what is the status of your SkyT Casino partnership?
Yeah, so we were asked to provide or give them a full esports betting site, which we did. We've done all the requirements around remote server installation on the tribal land within Colorado. So we've done everything to have that site ready, and it's ready to go from our perspective. Now it's just with the tribe and the regulator to get through their final steps before they're allowed to launch it. So we're still waiting to hear when that's a go, but in terms of our work, it's all complete. Site's there, ready to go. As soon as they say yes, it will get turned on.
All right, and a couple of questions here. You did refer to you're expecting the UK license that should be imminent. Any more sort of color or details onto that, given there's more questions regarding that?
Yeah, so we, with the timeline we were given, that would put us right around sort of the beginning of mid-June from the UKGC, and so we're sitting there now. They had some final requests from us last week. We submitted everything they'd asked for, so expecting that there's no additional questions there. We are, imminent, so in the next couple of weeks is still when we expect to get approval in the UK.
All right. And do you have any, given you're down like most stocks are from the highs in February, any plans to share buybacks or open market activities?
Yeah, these are things we always, discuss as a team and as a board. I wouldn't say anything that's on the near-term horizon for us.
All right. All right. And the status of the EAR partnership, EAR.
Yeah, EAR, so that's the group that the first game aggregator that we had an agreement with to take our games. So they're doing their work. So we've delivered our first few games to them. They're integrating them now into their remote gaming server. That's been going for the last couple of weeks. So as soon as they're complete and through testing, those games can go live. They say we're days away, so that's hopefully true. But as soon as that, we'll let people know that those games are live in the first casinos. We delivered the first 3, and the 4th is going, and just waiting for them to turn them on now.
All right. A question here about your growth in Canada once the single event betting is legalized. You mentioned that once it gets legalized on the federal level, then the provinces have to kind of go through their process of it. Are you being sort of flexible and seeing who does what where and try to adapt to that, or what's your kind of your business strategy in terms of sort of working, like, and Ontario as well may just be wanting to open things up as well. You don't have a crystal ball into who's going to do what, how, and when, but what's your overall kind of strategy on how to sort of track and pursue the Canadian market?
Yeah, so the single event betting, again, that doesn't immediately change our ability to operate. So that changes. We can't turn on a site after that because it's still the government are the only ones allowed. So, but Ontario changed. So yeah, we're watching that closely. Our initial approach is, I think, is a B2B provider. So we're talking to groups that we know are going to want to jump into the Ontario market as soon as possible, but aren't a betting operator today. So they're going to need the technology, and we can provide that. And we can also bring in, I think, a quick license. Our expectation is with Ontario wanting to move by December, and there's been some indication that if you're licensed in a jurisdiction that they have an MOU with, and we would expect places like Malta and UK to be that, you can start operating immediately and then go back and get the Ontario license. So, so initially we are looking at B2B opportunities. If we don't feel we're going to get a good, I think a good access to market with one of those, then we have the ability to launch our own site immediately. So, so that could be a B2C angle if we don't come to, I think, a good agreement around B2B partners there.
All right.
The rest of the provinces we expect, I know Alberta put out a request for information around online sportsbook extensions for casinos. So We know Alberta's looking at it. We expect BC to be looking at it. So I think they're waiting to see how Ontario rolls out and how they do it. And then I expect we'll see more provinces after that.
All right. And have there been any talks with other partners of 76 Capital regarding collaboration?
Yep, 76. Yeah, we engaged with 76 to bring potential partnerships in the U.S. And yes, we're having discussions from introductions 76 has made right now.
All right.
I can't say much more than that.
Yeah. Someone's asking about what makes your platform the most flexible, and what do you guys do that other people don't, other of your competitors don't provide?
Yeah, so a big one I think is our history and our background in esports. So I don't think you'll find a platform that can combine the traditional sports offering we have with the esports. The flexibility comes to in our with the way we've built it to take in feeds at a sport level or even a league level. I think that's fairly unique. So again, I think we can get the best offering for every partner, no matter what region they're in. So it's not like we just have one or two data feeds and that's what we give everyone around the world. McBookie is going to have a very different mixture of data than anybody we take in North America. We also have the ability to tailor the front ends by region. So a North American will look very different from a European site for us. And then the major flexibility that we haven't seen is if a partner has their own designers or front end developers. They can do whatever they want with the look and feel of the site. So a typical white label, you're only going to get color changes, logo changes. Here, they can make it look like whatever they want. So nobody will know that it's a white label coming from us. It'll have their own look and feel however they want. So those are the main ones. And then our ability to cover, I think, globally with Malta license, Curacao license, UK license, probably, provincial licenses. We can tap most of the world from where we are right now.
All right. And a question here regarding the score. Do you guys view them as a competitor once Canada gets more legalized, or are they potentially a partner? And I'm guessing that's time will tell.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting one. I think we're different in a number of ways. So one, like I said, we kind of look at, I think, is the technology and licensing is really the backbone of our company, which took a long time to get to where we are. The score is, media brand first. They are making moves in the US direct to consumers. So I think they're in 4 states right now. That's very different from how we want to approach it. The US is going to be the highest customer acquisition cost in the world. So you're competing with the Barstools and Penn, MGM, DraftKings, FanDuel. So they're going up against a real customer acquisition strategy in the US, which doesn't suit us very well. So in Canada, I think they will be a good brand because they're well known here, more so than they are in the US. So we'll see how that goes. The one issue is potentially, I think I mentioned earlier, is their technology platform was acquired. So they've been using BetWorks. That got acquired by Bally's. So I think initially there may be no change, but I think longer term that will have to be addressed. So who knows, that could open up a potential partnership with us having the platform being here in Canada, also having UK Malta licenses, which should help us in Ontario right away. So that could be something down the line, but 2 very different, I think, approaches right now.
All right. Someone's asking about how much experience your team has into managing the risk of running a book. We kind of dealt with that previously. Is there anything else to add to that, or is just seems like a lot of different mechanisms?
So our partners definitely have many years, but yeah, our head of sportsbook operations out of Malta has been heading risk and management teams for probably 15 plus years, has been betting for probably 30 plus years, has built out teams for some of the largest betting groups like BetDAC, had Sky Sports coming after him, Dutch National Lottery. So very experienced head of trading. And then he's built out a team that's split between right now. We've got a group in Malta, some in Kazakhstan, and we're adding in Brazil right now. So we leverage the partners we have, but we have a very strong team internally.
All right, there's a question here regarding, it's a pretty big question, I think, what's required to obtain licenses, especially in the US in terms of internal controls, software certification. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so with the US there'll be 50 different answers, to be honest. Like, yeah. I mean, every state will be different. Overall, I mean, we see the questions coming from Ontario and what they should be doing in their regulations. So it's somewhat similar, at least the basics. So, it starts with ownership and control. So you're going to have to show any shareholders. Typically, there's a 5% threshold. So there's extreme due diligence done on any shareholder that has more than 5% of the company. So that's a big one. Then in most jurisdictions, you're going to have to show key roles. So you're going to have experienced people that can cover every key role. For the UK, as an example, I think there's about 7 key roles, and there can't be crossover from a lot of those. So your head of marketing can't also be your head of risk and compliance. You have to have enough people to cover those roles. The US and Canada and a number of jurisdictions will make you have infrastructure in the region, which is why in the Colorado example with the SkyUtes, physical servers have to be in the state. They call that where the bet is struck. And same with an Isle of Man license, you have to have physical servers there. So we're required to have, in a lot of cases, a physical setup in the region where we're going to operate. And then there'll be things like player protected fund accounts, making sure that players' money is ring fenced from operational money. And that means that, we can't access player funds. So if anything were to happen to a direct to consumer site, the players are protected. We have to have a bunch of risk controls in place to show that we can manage any problem gaming. So we have different thresholds that can automatically block players to do enhanced due diligence, where we'll have to get source of wealth, source of funds. So very different from a brick and mortar casino. We actually have, we have a lot more information on the users, and we're required to report a lot more and a lot stricter around making sure people are not playing beyond their means. So those are a lot of the key ones. And then each jurisdiction will have its own technical requirements. So we do go through technical audits in almost every jurisdiction where we'll get a license, and that'll be the same in US and Canada. To be a software provider, some jurisdictions require us to have a license and some don't. As an operator, every jurisdiction will require us to have a license.
All right. Someone's asking when are you going to be live in Colorado, or is that any specific?
Yeah, that was the SkyUte question. So yeah, we're hopeful any day, but we don't. We don't have visibility into the regulator there, so we're just waiting for them to tell the SkyU tribe they can turn on the site.
All right. Do you have any, like someone's asking about, do you support land-based or mobile clients simultaneously? Do you have any sort of value add for the land-based casinos or betting operations?
Yeah, so we're a web and mobile product, so we can support a land-based. It really depends. Like each I think we're seeing provinces or states, for example, wanting to have physical terminals in a casino. I think eventually they'll get away from that because everyone's got a phone with them and they'll just go to phones. But if that's a requirement, we can support that. I mean, our software can sit on any machine. So we can support a physical terminal within a brick and mortar casino. We can also support ticket printing machines. So from that terminal, it can print out tickets that can be given to the cashier when you want to cash out and all that. So yeah, our software is flexible, so it can sit anywhere and support brick and mortar online.
All right, and a couple questions here left, and we'll be wrapped up. Any updates on the Vamos?
Yeah, so Vamos, it's live now. So we don't have any numbers coming out just yet to share, but we've been mostly getting our marketing groups in place. So we have now support hired in Brazil. We've got 2 marketing groups that are working on digital marketing for us now. And then we're about to be announcing our first major sort of partnerships very soon. So we'll be doing a very large promotion around a public kickoff, but the site is up now. It's got depositors, it's got users. And then we're just getting ready to ramp up the big marketing spend and push and the announcements. Next couple of weeks, we'll have those.
All right. And there's a question here in terms, is fans making money? And I guess what at what scale, like how much operating leverage do you have as you grow your revenues and that?
Yeah. So if the question is, are we making money? Yes, on the revenue side. We're growing revenue every quarter, which is great for us. As mentioned, we did about just over 1 million in Q1. So on a run rate for over 4 million this year in revenue. If we're asking for cash flow positive, no, not yet. But with the revenue, we don't have a huge burn, which is great for us. So we do have a focus on getting the cash flow positive in the next year for sure.
All right. Okay. So over the next 12 months, you hope to hit that cash flow break.
Like to get to that point in the next 12 to 18 months, both internally and through M&A activities.
All right. Okay, great. Well, we're a little over an hour here, and we've gone through all the questions. And so that's great. Are there any final comments you want to make? Any things that we didn't hit upon, or anything that you want to emphasize before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. Just thanks for all the support. Thanks, Martin, for doing this. If anyone has any more questions for Scott or myself, please feel free to reach out to myself or Scott, Darius at Fansunite.com or Scott at Fansunite.com. We try to answer every shareholder question we get through.
All right. Thanks very much for taking the time to talk with us today. That was very informative. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll talk again soon. Cheers.
Thanks, Martin. Bye-bye.
Bye.